So you were asking something?
Yeah, so we have to discuss that on Friday, the same time, right? Afternoon only, right? Not the
Yeah,
front session.
afternoon, whatever, 10-15 minutes. Once we finish the book, you can, share that. So it was just a suggestion, nothing to compel, but it was more like a suggestion that if you have something to share which adds on to what this book says and you find it relevant, then you could share that day. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. So I'll start reading and anyone want to join, then they can tell and I will stop there. Yeah. So today we've resumed reading from 154, page number 154. This chapter refers to emotional agility at work. So we have seen as part of this chapter earlier that we are talking about hooks. What are the hooks as per the definition, that what stories or what incidences or what patterns of behavior we go into due to these things, that is termed as hook. And what are the individual hook, that are the personal stories we are telling ourselves. What are the group hooks that are there is what we are going to see now. So group hooks. Most of us work in teams, which means that our hooks aren't limited to those derived from our personal narratives or preoccupations. They can very easily include narratives about our colleagues. Without even realizing it, we make judgments about their weaknesses and strengths and about how dedicated or talented they are or are not. The simple truth is that it's very easy to get people entirely wrong. Often this is the result of biases we had never admit to in our million years. Making matters worse, humans are biased about their own objectivity, so we often have no idea that we are biased in the first place. In one study, participants, both male and female, were asked to consider a male candidate, Michael, and a female candidate, Michelle, for the position of police chief. After they heard about the backgrounds of the two potential hires, the study subjects were asked whether they thought it was more important that the successful candidate be streetwise or formally educated. Over and over, the participant chose as more important whichever quality had been ascribed to the male candidate. If the man if the man up for the job was said to be streetwise, the participant said it was more important that the police chief be streetwise. If the male candidate was said to be well educated, the participants went with that. Not only did they consistently show this gender bias, but also they were completely unaware that they had this bias. Another experiment asked subjects to place bets in a game against the same opponent, who was either well dressed and confident or poorly dressed and awkward. The researchers playfully named these the Draper and the Schnook conditions. Who says scientists don't have any fun? When the results were tallied, the participants had bet far more aggressively against the unimpressive Schnook, even though the game, choosing random cards from a deck, was based entirely on chance. The subject looked at the awkward, ill dressed loser guy across the table, and their biases kicked in right away, telling them they were better than the schnook and that, against all logic, their superiority would somehow enable them to come out ahead, even in a game of luck. In an article for Harvard Business Review, I wrote about Jack, a senior manager who worked at one of the companies I consult with. Jack's co workers had always seen him as a good guy. Then one day he announced he was pulling the plug on a big project, and the disappointed people under him suddenly changed their tune. In their minds, Jack was no longer the nice guy everyone chatted with at parties. He was a phony, self serving, risk averse snake, just like all the other higher ups. It's all too easy to be hooked on the notion known as correspondence bias, that someone else's behavior can be attributed to a fixed personality traits like phoniness or risk aversion. In contrast, we generally explain away our own bad behavior as a reaction to circumstances. What could I do? I was under pressure. The Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert assigns 4 root causes to correspondence bias. We lack full awareness of the situation. In the example of Jack the Project Killer, Jack's staff simply didn't know the entire story about their boss's decision, including how hard he may have resisted it, or how much of a beating he took from his bosses with it. We have unrealistic expectations. Even if Jack's colleagues understood that he was stuck between a rock and a hard place, they might have said to themselves, "What a turkey! I would never have caved like that." Third, we make exaggerated assessments of behavior. His team members are more likely to interpret the slight smile of Jack's as a sadistic smirk of pleasure at destroying his colleagues' dreams and ambitions than as a smile. We failed to correct our initial assumptions. Even if his disappointed team members eventually learn more about the circumstances behind his decision, they might never get around to revising their opinion of him. In actuality, neither the positive assumptions Jack's colleagues made when they liked him, nor the negative conclusions they leapt to after he did something they didn't care for were complete or even particularly well informed. The truth was they didn't know Jack about Jack. It's only when we practice emotional agility that we are able to shift perspectives and move into continued investigation, discovery, and an evolving understanding of the people and situations we encounter. Hooked groups. Sometimes in the collaborative world of work, it isn't just one person who is hooked, it's the whole team. In March 2005, Elaine Bromiley went to the hospital for a minor operation. She suffered from sinus trouble and the doctors were going to straighten the inside of her nose to alleviate the problem. Her husband, Martin, waved goodbye to his wife and went off with their 2 children to do the weekly shopping. Several hours later, Martin received a phone call. There had been difficulties keeping Elaine's airway open under anesthesia and she wasn't waking up properly. Her oxygen levels had plummeted and she was being moved to intensive care. When Martin arrived at the hospital, he found his wife in a coma. A few days later, he allowed doctors to turn off the life support machines. An investigation showed that Elaine's airway had collapsed almost immediately after the procedure had begun. Following standard medical practice, the anesthesiologist tried to give her oxygen using a ventilator. He called for help, which led to another anesthesiologist and a surgeon arriving on the scene. They then tried to place a tube in Elaine's airway to intubate her with no success. A patient can survive without oxygen for only about 10 minutes before suffering irreversible brain damage. So in a can't ventilate, can't intubate, life or death situation, the cardinal rule is to stop trying to insert a breathing tube and instead find a direct way of getting oxygen into the patient's airway. This is most often done by making an emergency incision through the neck directly into the windpipe or trachea. The 3 doctors in the operating room had 60 years of experience among them. They knew the guidelines, yet they failed to shift gears and kept trying to insert the tube again and again. By the time the doctors finally got the tube in, more than 25 minutes had passed, and it was too late. While the doctors were making their intubation attempt, one of the nurses who saw clearly what was happening offered a tracheotomy kit, but she was brushed off. Another nurse went to reserve a bed in intensive care, but when doctor's expression seemed to imply she was overreacting, she cancelled it. How could a routine operation like this get bungled soon badly. An otherwise healthy 37-year-old goes to a modern hospital with experienced staff for a minor procedure and winds up dead. The answer in a word, rigidity. The doctors experienced tunnel vision, a loss of awareness of the situation, and a narrowing of context meant that they didn't take a step back, process what was going on, and shift from plan A to plan B. The nurses in the operating room later said they were surprised that not one of the doctors performed a tracheotomy, but they didn't feel they could speak up. They assumed the doctors would be biased against a nurse taking the lead in such a critical moment, but in this they showed their own bias against the doctors. While the results aren't always as tragic, this kind of group hook happens all the time in the workplace. It's the same kind of rigidity that had Erin, our well-coiffed executive at the beginning of the chapter, taking a call in her closet. And it's the same rigidity that can lead to the whole design team plowing forward with some fabulous product despite the market data clearly predicting that it will fail. The difference in the case of Elaine Bromley is that the misguided decision making resulted in a devastating loss of life. No doubt you have sat in a meeting in which you have suppressed your doubt or disagreement because you either weren't living to offer a different perspective or approach, or because you didn't feel you could. It's risky and scary to be the only one voicing a dissenting or unpopular opinion. But if you are not willing to show up to the difficult feeling of being in the minority, you will never be heard. People can be silent in a constructive way, as when you decide to disengage from an argument. People can be silent in a constructive way, as when you decide to disengage from an argument that just isn't that important, or when you refrain from telling a colleague that you think his off-the-cuff idea is absurd. But while the idea that everyone on a team needs to be on the same side of comforting, it all too often leads to groupthink fiascos instead of organizational agility. Signs you are hooked at work. You can't let go of an idea or of being right, even when there is an obviously better course of action. You stay silent when you know something is going wrong. You busy yourself with small tasks without considering the bigger picture. You become apathetic. You volunteer for only the least difficult assignments or tasks. You make backhanded comments about coworkers or projects. You rely on assumptions or stereotypes about your colleagues. You aren't taking agency over your own career development. Show up for work. To truly show up at the office means making room for and labeling your thoughts and emotions and seeing them for what they are. Information rather than facts or directives. This is what allows us to step out to create distance from and gain perspective on our mental processes, which then defangs their power over us. Only a relatively small percentage of Americans have jobs in which they routinely experience fear, by which I mean fear for your life fear. The kind which the ship is going down, or the mine is caving in, or 6 drug dealers with itchy trigger fingers are cornering you. But nearly every working American is acquainted with fear's chemical cousin, stress. The stomach clenching effect of that ancient fight or flight instinct only now applied to a third quarter budget report, a nasty customer, a dreaded conversation, or the threat of impending layoffs. In chapter 1, we spoke about the kind of fear that manifests as a steady, protracted drip of anxiety causing hormones, as opposed to the sudden rush of, a snake, adrenaline. Psychologists call this allostatic stress or allostatic load. And the more of it we experience over time, the more physically and emotionally exhausted we become. When we are in a group environment at work, which is to say, most of the time, in which everyone else is stressed, which is to say, most of the time, everyone adds to everyone else's allostatic load through another process we described earlier known as contagion. Around the average workplace, stress seems to hang in oppressive clouds in the air above everyone's cubicle. And much like second-handed smoke, second-hand stress can have a profound effect on everyone in its vicinity. In one study, a group of nurses were asked to keep a daily log In one study, a group of nurses were asked to keep a daily log of their mood, work hassles, and the overall emotional climate of their team. The logs, which covered a 3-week period, showed that any one nurse's mood on any given day, whether good or bad, was significantly predicted by the moods of the other nurses of the team. What was astonishing was that this emotional contagion occurred even when the moods doing the influencing had nothing to do with work, and even though the nurses were spending only a few hours of their workday with one another. Over time, these infectious moods can spread through a given organization, contributing to the overall culture of the workplace. Another study suggests that even just seeing a stressed out person can increase the observer's own stress. Participants watched through a one-way mirror while a stranger was put through difficult arithmetic tasks and a high-pressure interview. The researchers measured a major uptick of cortisol, a hormone released during times of stress, in almost a third of the onlookers. About a quarter of the onlookers had the same reaction while viewing the stressful event on video. And yes, while stress can be a killer, it turns out that stressing about house, those type 2 thoughts from chapter 3, is the real killer. In a study of nearly 30,000 respondents, people who had experienced a lot of stress but who didn't worry that their stress was harming them were no more likely to have died during the next 8 years than the other respondents. But those people who had a lot of stress and who believed the stress was hurting them was over 40% more likely to have died. The more basic truth to remember is that stress ain't all bad. Having deadlines and expectation keeps us on our feet to the fire and us. If you will pardon the shift in metaphors, on our toes. At a more existential level, a subtle amount of pressure is simply part of living, which makes getting rid of my stress one of those dead people's goals we talked about earlier. The bottom line take home message brought to you by Emotional Agility is this: denying stress, bottling it, or brooding about it is counterproductive. Avoiding stress is impossible, but what we can do is adjust our relationship to stress. If it doesn't have to own us, we can own it. Anybody would like to take over from here? Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
The first step is, rather than obsessing about stress as a torment that's destroying our lives, to simply accept that it exists, to show up to it by acknowledging that it's not going away anytime soon. The second, vitally important step is to understand that stressed is not who you are. When you say I'm stressed, you conflate your whole self. I am equals to all of me with the emotion. It may sound nitpicky, but the very phrasing fuses your entire identity to that feeling of stress. That's part of what makes the experience so something. In chapter 5, I suggested that calling a feeling out for what it is, a feeling, and a thought for what it is, a thought, can be a quick and enormously powerful stepping out factor. I am noticing that I'm feeling stress. It immediately creates space between you and the feeling. But this requires proper labeling to be effective. You may realize that what you're calling stress is actually exhaustion because you've taken on too much, or frustration with a team that isn't pulling together. When you consider the funk as in what the funk of that feeling, evaluate what it is trying to teach you. It may be signaling that you need to have a talk with the members of your team or appeal to a supervisor for more equitable division of pay. Or maybe the feeling is just the price of the ticket, a not so pleasant aspect of a job you otherwise enjoy for the growth and challenge it provides. Or could you spoon? On the other hand, the lesson may be that you've had enough of this madness and are ready to move on, to save bottling, audible, to start making artisanal cheese. Just don't kid yourself that the cheese business is entirely stress-free. Nor is it competing with a bunch of hipsters. Nor is competing with a bunch of hipsters for that perfect sunlit loft. Still, those kinds of stressors might fully be worth the payoff. The why of work. Just short train ride south of Vienna, Austria, lies Marnith, an attractive town with orderly streets bordered by lovely green hills. In 1830, a cotton shipping mill was built there, and it remained the region's primary employer for the next century. In the Great Depression of the 1930s, the business went under, and about 3/4 of the town's workers lost their jobs. Shortly before the mill closed, however, Austria had made unemployment insurance obligatory for all citizens. This insurance would replace a significant part of Marienthalers' lost wages, but there was a catch. To qualify for support, the laid-off workers were forbidden from taking paid jobs of any kind. Even informal work was prohibited. Reports from the period describe how one townsman lost his unemployment benefits by playing a harmonica on the sidewalk for tips. From 1930 to 1933, researchers from the University of Graz observed a striking change in the local inhabitants. Over time, the whole town became lethargic. Walkers stopped walking. Hikers stopped hiking. Napping became the primary activity. Men quit wearing watches because time no longer mattered. And wives complained that their husbands were always late for dinner, even though they had nowhere else to go. The townspeople didn't even fill their new leisure time with reading, painting, or other artistic or intellectual diversions. In fact, over the 3 years of the study, the local library saw a 50% drop in the average number of books checked out. Their inability to work seemed to leave the residents of Marienthal demotivated to the point that they weren't interested in anything. As we've already established, work provides far more than a meal. Work provides far more than a meal. It gives us a sense of identity and purpose, as well as a framework around which we organize our other activities and interests. Work can also bring substantial mental health benefits. Unless they replace their job with other engaging activities, retired workers are at the risk of accelerated cognitive decline. Pay, of course, is part of what people expect from work. But my own research has shown that pay is far from the only aspect of a job that provides satisfaction and incentive. In a recent study for Ernst & Young, a global professional services corporation, I examined what I refer to as hotspots. Business owners where employees were exceptionally engaged, meaning that they felt able to bring the best of themselves to their workplace. These hotspots were also performing outstandingly on the metric such as revenues and reputation. But it wasn't that these metrics were driving engagement. Instead, it was the people's engagement that predicted these outstanding results. Be curious. What was accounting for these hotspots engagement scores and leading to such remarkable success for them and for the business? What I discovered in my research was that only 4% of the respondents mentioned their pay as a motivator. Instead, they highlighted their sense of connection with their teams, challenge in their work, being truly seen as individuals and feeling empowered in their lives. Emotional labor. I started working when I was 14, but my first post-college real job was as a technical worker at a training organization in New Zealand. Until that point, I hadn't really given much thought to what I wanted to do with my life. But soon I realized that technical writing was not it. I absolutely hated that job. Every day at lunch, I would go out with another young woman who worked, and we would vent about our co-workers, our assignments, the boss meeting, and pretty much everything else. Then we'd go back to the office and behave as though everything was just fine. Spending my lunch hour co-brooding with my colleague and then returning to the office to play nice didn't make me feel better, nor did it do much for my job performance. Truth is, I needed to show up to my frustration and disaffection and examine what was fueling it, chronic undercharge. Then I needed to step out from those feelings to develop a broader perspective that would help me. Just a minute. Sorry about that. I lost where I was. Okay. Yeah. Then I needed to step out from those feelings to develop a broader perspective that would help me take steps towards what was most constructive. I needed to do my best work, develop all the skills and contacts I could, and use this boring job to help me learn more about what I really wanted to. Ultimately, instead of using my energy to learn, I needed to put it to better use, finding a new job. Every job, of course, whether it's growing palm trees or selling napalm, involves physical or intellectual work, or both. But every job also involves emotional, what psychologists call emotional labor. The energy that goes into maintaining the public face required in any job, and in fact, in most any human interaction. If you are in the working world, you've no doubt laughed politely at a joke you didn't find funny because your boss was a one who. You've probably put on a happy face at some function when all you really wanted was to be home in a bed with a book. To some degree, emotional labor is about what we call being polite or getting by. We all do it. It's generally harmless and it's more socially savvy, safe to smile at your hostess and compliment her on her wretched cock or win than it is to spit it back into your plate. At work, though, the more you fake your emotions or surface act, the worse off you're likely to be. Too great an incongruity between how you really feel and how you pretend to be becomes such a chore that it leads to burnout and all sorts of related negative consequences of it, both for you and for your organization. In part because it's just so frigging exhausting. Needless to say, as anyone who's had a bad day at work knows, what happens at work can also seep into your personal life. If you spent the day pretending to be thrilled your colleague got the big project you thought was yours, or looking alert in a pointless 3-hour meeting that kept you from getting your actual work done, you're liable to come home spitting nails. At the very least, you would have that much less energy for your personal life. You might want to hit the gym or enjoy your relaxed dinner, but you're so depleted from your day's Oscar worthy performance and so disconnected from your core self that you can't muster the resources to do it. You might assume that people in the hotel industry spend a lot of time in service acting here. Yes, we apologize for your dinner. We apologize that your dinner arrived 3 minutes late, so certainly we would be delighted to bring you a fluffier bowl. And in fact, one research study sought out hotel employees to measure the effects of suppressing feelings on the job and marital conflict at home. Not surprisingly, they found that the spouses of those hoteliers who surface acted the most hoped that their mates would find a different job as a way of risking their domestic health. But actually, the ease and the genuineness with which hotel employees are able to exude hospitality and caring depends to a large degree on the values they bring to the work. If someone is in the business just because she fell into it, or because she wanted to live in Madrid or the Maldives, she might be carrying too heavy and allostatic load, buckling under the stress of constant service activity. If, however, she is walking her wine, in that she truly loves delighting guests and seeing to it that they enjoy themselves during the stay, then she's probably not service acting at all. To make decisions that match up with the way you want to be and to have the work and the career you want to pursue, you have to be in touch with the things that matter to you so that you can use them as signposts. Sometimes we get so busy, we forget to listen to the heartbeat of our life. Without the navigational aid of knowing what truly matters to you, it's far too easy to spend hours, maybe even years, shuffling papers, surfing the web, reading pointless emails, yakking in the coffee, and feeling monstrously unfulfilled. It's by walking your why at home, taking actions in line with what matters to you, that you become more engaged and are able to perform at the peak of your abilities. For many people, such as those hotel workers who don't have to pay it, a big part of the why of birth is the human connection. In an Israeli study, radiologists who were shown photos of patients whose scans they were reading not only felt more empathetic towards their subjects, but also took the time to write longer reports. Because of these changes, they also made 46% more accurate diagnoses. Not only that, they all agreed afterwards that they liked working with the photos attached to their case files far more than working without the photos. Take this job and tweak it. In a perfect world, we'd all have a job in which we are constantly in a state.
Sunita,
Yeah.
we'll stop for the day here. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So thanks for reading. Yeah. So
Thanks.
so let's try to understand what are our takeaways for the day from our reading, and also what all things was striking, and what all you could connect with what we have already read in the book. If anybody had any specific insight, anything that helped them relate with what they are going through or what they have gone through, please feel free to share. Yeah.
I could relate to the stress bit of it, where, that you take from your colleagues as well. So I remember when I was working, and we had this one particular person who was senior, who was very curt. So
Your voice
whenever
is
we,
not clear, Sunikita. Something is amiss.
is it?
Yeah, at least for me, at least. I don't know about others. Please confirm.
I increased the volume, it was okay. Maybe Surita, you can increase your volume when you speak.
Now?
Yeah. Go on.
Okay, so I was saying that the fact about the stress being you taking the stress of your teammates or your colleagues. So that is something that I recall, that we all face that situation wherein that stress of our colleague is rubbed off to us as well. So even if you don't have specifically related with dealing with managers and your seniors and how they have interacted with your colleague. So if you are supposed to go next in line, so that feedback that you take from what happened in the session before you or in the meeting before, trickles down. So that was something that I could relate to and say that yes, I've been in the situation, and this is something that is actually true in work atmosphere.
Right. So I think stress was a factor which we all can relate, and which is practical. So I see that this book is actually now talking more on the practical. It has been also connecting to the practical issues earlier, but now in the workplace specifically, it is highlighting the key things that we have to face rather than an ideal situation. She has brought it out very clearly that what all we have to face. How do we look at work? We look at work from an identity perspective. We link our identities with work. So not only it brings us the bread and butter, but it's also somewhere making us go, right? So that example of, the milk shutting down was really a situation which is true for rather many of us. The point on balancing work life, which was again a practical difficulty or a situation or a dilemma which each one of us face, that also she had covered earlier for the workplace related thing. She has also brought out that what actually hit me hard is one thing about stress, what Sunita also shared. Second thing was that we somewhere Indians, or we are somewhere trained to be very polite. And if we see a contrast in the Americans, they are very blunt, or the British, they are very blunt. They will seemingly be blunt in meetings, while will hesitate, will not be very aggressive until to a point where we have to kind of. That is what I have seen. That hesitance is very, very inherent to our culture. And I remember reading in a book, I think it is Outliers, in that it has been mentioned that in Korean, culturally they have a similar practice that authority cannot be challenged. So you have to bow down to the authority and you can't challenge it. So culturally, it is so built into the system that it resulted into an air crash, right? The authority of the main pilot was not questioned, and thereby they had to face that plane crash. So seeking seeking a lesson from there is, we have to look at not only the cultural impact, but we have to look at the situation standalone and what best has to be done in that situation. Yes, there are certain factors beyond which is also narrated in the book. Like you have to smile for, certain things, which is for survival. But all the more inherent point that is coming is, how do you hit a balance? And you also are in awareness that you are balancing it somewhere, and there has to be a negotiation somewhere, and not always it will be like you are being true to yourself and true to your purpose. But she gently places the point that you have to be clear of your why, so that when you walk your why, you can carry it along to the best possible, and not maybe entirely, but at least you are aware, and that stands as a support to you when you have difficult times and you have to make critical decisions. It also stands as an anchor that what is important for you when you tend to flow into the emotional, flow, that suddenly something happens and you trigger, or you have some misconception that this situation is due to something which is may not be true. So that questioning will come when you are aware of your why, and that why will make you question these things, bring things to more of a perspective. I also found the underlying thing that was coming out of it is belief. If you believe that you can do something, you will do it. But your belief that you can't do something will stop you from even exploring. So that is, I think, the basic point which anyone will have to face in their lives. So they'll have to question their belief, at least at critical junctures, where if that belief is wrong, the step will be, drastically into a wrong direction. So that also I could understand here. So anyone else would like to share what were their key takeaways or what they could resonate with?
One point that was about group hook that hit me hard, that how that lady went for sinus surgery and what was the outcome. That was really big. The staff anticipated the things, but they did not question at that time.
Right. So that shows that inherent culture that has been created there, that you can't question, otherwise, you have to face a lot of consequences.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 10 more minutes. So I would like to share something if you are all okay with it.
Yes, please
Yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
please go ahead.
So this doesn't talk about directly to what we have read today, but definitely it talks about in line with what has been somewhere spoken between the lines in the book. Yeah. So I'm just trying to expand that and trying to bring the focus on how language plays a role in our lives, as well as in particularly to the emotions that we have. So, so just a question. Mother, Ma, I, Amma, which word relates to you the most out of these?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any thoughts why mother is the same? I is the same? Ma is the same, it means same, but why can you connect with that particular word?
Because it is our the very first language when we heard this word,
Hmm.
and it relates emotionally.
So that is the word I was seeking. Sunita, you have anything to say?
Yeah, the same thing, because we have been using that, constantly, and we attach to
Right.
the feelings
Yeah.
that word generates.
Right. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I just want to add, like, this word gets introduced to us when we don't understand anything. So, like, I remember when reading some of the other book by Eckhart Tolle or something, he just mentions about talking, reflecting on things without the context to the names. So, like, being in the present when he was talking about. So he was talking about, like, if we are looking at a flower, like, just go and see at it, and with that curiosity, when, as if, what if this was not named as a flower, as if you, that thing is new to you. So looking from that curiosity and that connection uh, gives a different mindfulness experience altogether. So I think this word mother or ma or whatever we call our moms bring is like the first like step towards connection in the real world to us as babies. So maybe similar in alignment with what others shared.
right. Right. So very true. See, language is something which shapes our experience. Now, language again, now, earlier it was like one person will know only one language or most likely two languages. But now we are living in a fast world where we tend to have exposure to many languages, right? So, the way my mother tongue will have implication, or the way I experience things through my mother language will be different than the way I experience things from other languages. This is somewhere proven that the reason is, as you all rightly said, that's the first word we hear. That's the first word we have experienced, and it is a point of connection. So it will create the highest amount of emotional reaction within us. Okay. So now why I understand this very distinctively, because I know multiple languages, and when I was studying a foreign language, I could not understand why those same sentences, when I translate in English, those same words don't create any kind of a emotion or reaction, or doesn't pass on that meaning to me in that impactful way as maybe my mother tongue or maybe English does, right? So that's when one of our teachers expressly said that there is this concept called as emotional resonance, which is that wherever culturally you are attached, the from birth what language, emotions are involved, more emotions are getting connected there. The way you articulate also functions very beautifully, because they said that if, say, I'm born in India, so even if I'm a foreign child, I would be exposed to all the vowels and consonants of Hindi, say. So I will be able to pick up those vowels and consonants faster because of my listening during the age when I was unable to talk or cannot talk. And then if I say I'm introduced to my mother tongue, which is a foreign language, still I will be more proficient and likely to be more proficient in this and attached to this, because I've heard those consonants and vowels. That gives my me the ability to speak it more emotionally. It triggers the different way of me feeling when I speak in that language, the way my mind cognitively listens to it, and no need of translation. It just gets exhibited in my behavior, or I can understand it without any kind of a translation. But say for example, I was brought up in Pune, but I am actually a Tamilian. So for me, actually, I have more exposure to Hindi or Marathi. But when I talk in Tamil or try to talk in Tamil, there is somewhere a conversion. I have to convert English to Tamil, or when it's Tamil, I try to understand, I have to translate it to English or Hindi. That is the way, I understand my brain works. So this is somewhere a bit of a technicality, but I just want you to understand one thing. You have to be able to decipher which is your closest language. That is what emotionally triggers you. Say, for example, your mother tongue. Say it is Marathi. If I say Mansi's mother tongue is Marathi, then she should go for affirmations and songs and everything which is from Marathi language, because then she will be able to emote it and the absorption will be much higher for her if she is very connected to her mother tongue. But if, say, like me, she is not very connected, then she will have to go for the language where she finds this connection, right? So that distinction one has to understand, because if you see, you watch a movie in your mother tongue, the emotion effect level when you hear two old Hindi songs, the memories it creates or the emotional reactions it creates may not come in the English songs, which you can understand well, the background and you might have seen it many times. But the way the emotions get absorbed when you have the connecting language is very, very important, to understand that dynamics there. Similarly, now when it comes to emotions, anyone has anything to add here? Okay. So emotions are abstract. If you see the first line, emotions are abstract. They are not tangible but felt. So basically, even if I say that I'm feeling very angry, there is no degree which I can put on it that I'm just, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm 9 in terms of anger. That cannot be defined so very conclusively or so very accurately or in so much as words. So you have to understand that when you are, trying to understand the emotion in terms of the words of a feeling, you'll have to understand that this is something I have constructed, right? So this is actually may not be the same as what emotions I'm feeling. So emotions are internal experiences, not physical objects. We don't have anger like we have a pen. We feel it, sense it, interpret it. Saying I am sad treats the emotion as an identity. So I am sad. So that I am sad word itself, that wording that you give to that emotion or the feeling itself links it to your identity. But sadness is a transient experience, not who you are. So if we understand emotions are only temporary visitors, we need not give them permanent residence by linking them to our identity, by thinking that they are going to be there forever, or you just make it as part of yourself, right? I just covered language shapes experience, linguistic framing. So as far as this book is concerned, if you say, Susan has said that name it to tame it. So the first step of the emotional agility steps, four-step framework talks about show up. So you have to show up to the emotion, understand it, and name it to tame it, right? So accurately naming the emotion is very, very important. So because the prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking brain, is what gets activated, and prefrontal cortex brain is basically a bit slower. It takes time, right? It's not the survival mode, it's the well thought mode. So that takes time to trigger. So we need to pause and give time, name the emotion or the feeling, and then we need to take, react to it basically, or take action. Notice how your mood shifts when you say this is unbearable versus this is uncomfortable, but I can sit with it. Now, some NLP people can say whether use of but is appropriate here. So you can use yet here. Yeah. Now, anything to add here? Anyone? Any experience to share? Okay. So basically, we have our own interpretations of the standard emotions that we have: anger, envy, and we have also ways to handle that in terms of our interpretation. So first we will look at how we normally label the feelings to the emotions that is getting generated, and how we can better do it using the EA shift, and then why that will work better, right? And also after this we will see how what are the myths around how we interpret the common emotions that we come across. Yeah. So I am angry. What does this say? That it again, when I say I am angry, it links it to my identity. So instead of saying that, distance it. Create a distance between anger and you and say, I am noticing anger rising in me. So what it happens is creates an observer stance, and distance enables a choice. That it's your choice to get into that or just see it for what it is. I'm a failure. So better is I failed at this, accept it, don't deny it. What can I learn? So what is the next step? What can I do next? Protects identity. So I'm not a failure. Supports growth mindset. So what exactly I need to do next is brought into the question. I can't handle this. This is hard. I can't handle this just denies that, again, I'm not good enough. I'm not at the desired level. This somewhere again reflects your comment on the identity. This is hard and I'm doing my best. This validates the struggle that we are in, that we are still not maybe up to the mark to this situation, but also, I'm trying to do the best in the given situation. So it affirms the effort involved. They make me feel worthless. So this more looks like a very disappointing or what do you say, negative kind of tone to the words. I feel hurt when I think I am being devalued. So this is where somewhere placing what we are feeling into the right context. I feel hurt. Yes, I'm feeling hurt when I think I'm being devalued. So here I may be judging, or I may be thinking about this situation as being, that people are devaluing me. Shifts from blame to ownership. So I think I'm being devalued. So I'm hurt is what I'm accepting. And the value check that I'm making here is, I feel that this incident is somewhere making me feel that I'm worthless, right? This is unbearable. This is uncomfortable, but I can sit with it. Same to what I had written earlier. So this builds emotional resilience and tolerance. This is temporary. This is uncomfortable, yes. So face the truth as it is, but only it's passing. So I connect it. What can I do? I have to sit with it till I find a solution for it. So what is this reframing of language helping us to shift? Linking the emotion to identity versus just looking at it as an experience for what it actually is. Instead of reaction, we get a time to reflect. As I said, the prefrontal cortex gets an opportunity to think. Fixed versus growth mindset. Fixed is a habitual way of looking at things, not ready to widen your perspective, and growth mindset is accepting where you are and thinking about how you can go ahead to where you want to reach. Any questions here? Anything to add here?
No, this is beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, so there are these questions that one can ask. What emotion do you feel frequently mislabel or avoid? Can you recall a moment when changing how you described your feeling actually helped? Right? See, I was actually trying to experiment over the 3 weeks that we have been reading this book. Almost today is the 13th day. So I've been trying to experience how am I labeling, how am I understanding, but I am understanding these are subtle labels, which actually there is not much time I can pause and think. But one thing I could gain from this understanding of this book is the awareness comes that somewhere I'm going in the wrong direction. I have to pause and I have to recalibrate. Right? So maybe it might not be in terms of the wordings that the book talks about, but somewhere I feel at an awareness level, I'm directing myself to a better direction. Yeah. So the self-criticism has come down. The calibration of the situation, that is what exactly event is happening, right, has improved, I would say. And earlier I could feel, I earlier something will happen which is again beyond my control, but then I will see that emotional dip in the energy or emotional hit I will take at a mind level. But now I seem to recover back because that hit is not affecting me much. It is, I may not be able to dodge it because that pattern is still playing off, but it doesn't hurt me anymore as earlier what was it hurting. But to be very frank, this is my experience so far. So this is somewhere at a subconscious level, this seems to happen. Yes, but when I also look at language, the way I write and the way I express, I again become mindful because I have realized that, how are you naming it will depend how whether you can tame it or whether you are, encouraging it to overpower you. Yeah. So which one language shift from the above list would most help in your current challenge? If you see from the I am statement, I just try to add I am noticing. Even if in writing or even if I'm commenting on somebody else, I notice that you are doing this. I don't say you are doing this. Something like that. So the word noticing is somewhere added to my vocabulary quite often. How would your relationships change if you started using I notice I'm feeling instead of I am? So this is, I think, one thing you can change. Instead of I am, I notice I'm feeling. Yeah. Right. So since we are talking about emotions in specific, I wanted to break some myths for myself and for for the benefit of you all while I do that what we hold as an interpretation of certain emotions due to our whatever, our upbringing, our social way of looking at it, our group kind of a understanding that we have, or as Indians we have this kind of thing. There are a lot of things, right? Layers to our understanding. But I just want to try and bring a better understanding rather than having a bit of an understanding which might not be more closer to reality. So most of us carry unconscious emotional myths, stories that limit rather than liberate. Emotional agility invites us to examine and reframe those beliefs. So as the names, when we are naming a feeling has to be changed, let's also try and understand the stories and the labels that we give for the emotions or the feelings. So the common myth with anger is it's dangerous or destructive, so I should not have it. But I cannot remember that it is ever possible for me to not be angry. It is, but I have to understand that if I'm angry, that there is a direction to it. So what is the directive that can come? Something I care about feels violated. Something somebody has done has violated my personal boundary or some boundary which is defined by society, by whatever the rules of the land or whatever. So that has been violated. What boundary needs repair? So what I can do is I can either tell the person this is what it is that has been done, or I need to set a better boundary because I might have not told the other person that this was my expectation all through the time, right? So either I have to set clear boundaries that from tomorrow now this is what is that I'm expecting, and this should not happen because I've never told that, or I have to myself understand, why this is happening and see that this doesn't get repeated because this is what is wanted. So it is more from a productive part rather than the anger eating us up and making us do a knee-jerk reaction. Envy, it's a moral flaw. So we always feel that we cannot be envious, not to be envious. So I think anger, envy, guilt, and all that is why we normally say it is not good and we should avoid, is because it brings you. It has these are powerful emotions, will take you from say 0 to 10 very fast. Happiness, joy is very excitement are somewhere 0 to 5, but these emotions, envy, anger, fear, this will actually either take you from 0 to 10 or make you incapacitated. You will not be able to do it, will go to negative, the energy level. So that is what I think. To protect from that, they have just made a general statement: you should not be fearful, you should not be envious, and you should not be angry. But that cannot happen. So we have to accept that and give better way of looking at it. So instead of saying I cannot be envious, we have to understand when envy is evoked. I think we have spoken of this earlier also. That person has something I desire, what does this reveal about my aspiration? So if I was not aware this is what I desire, it has now, you can get a chance to consciously understand that this, from this incident of envy, that this is what I desire. This is what is my heart's desire. This person has something which I want, similar to I want. So this cannot be that only he has, I also want it from him, but it's just a signal that you also want it for yourself, right? Fear. It should be overcome or hidden. This fear may be showing where I'm growing. What's the preparation or courage I need? So I think the book clearly distinguishes two kind of fear. One is when you are actually traveling from a comfort zone outside, fear will automatically get triggered because that's how your survival system or your cognitive system is working. So you have to understand that is it a real fear where there is a survival effect, or is it a fear which is just because you're comfortable or you're doing something out of your comfort zone or doing something new. So this point the book covers. Second point the book covers is choice. So when you make a choice, this cannot be, I would say, fear, but it's a regret. So I have, say, 4 choices. I could have gone to the market today. I could have gone to a birthday party. I could have gone to, my mother's place, and I could have done some book reading during this time. Since I chose to go to the market, I said no to the birthday party, I said no to the book, and I said no to my mother's visit also. So I will have this regret, or I will fear that, I'm going to lose these 3 choices. But when you make a choice, you have but naturally weighed it, and you will have to let go regretting these, not making these 3 choices, right? So then naturally you will have that regret in your mind, but you'll have to let go that. Next is guilt. It means I'm a bad person. So generally, if you say guilt needs, a person needs to learn to actually have this guilt feeling. It's not a natural feeling. If you say either society makes you feel guilty of certain things because there are rules laid down by them, or your upbringing, somebody would have told you that if you don't be perfect, then you are not up to the mark, or if you don't do this, then you are not up to the mark. If you don't respect the elders, then you are not up. So this kind of labels or rules that are laid down, the person learns to feel guilty, and guilty also comes with an awareness. It's an emotion which is actually thought that I feel guilty because I have not done this. And this is something which is a rule laid down in your mind, that this is rule which we should not be crossing. But guilt often is not helpful. Yes, it is corrective, like in a society, it is corrective that we don't go beyond certain boundaries. But most of the times, a lot of guilt is like a bit harmful for us. This guilt is showing me because it actually hampers your identity. It shows, you puts you down, and it makes all the good things that you have done to zero. It says that you are totally a bad person. So to avoid that, this guilt is showing me an misalignment. What course needs correcting? So I've just to relook at the rule that I'm adhering here, that what is creating this guilt, what is the rule that I might have been crossing, and what course correction I need to make there. That is all it is saying. Love. I think love is the most, I would say, difficult as well as complex, I would say, type of emotion, which can take many different interpretations to many people based on the circumstances. Especially for Indians, we understand the emotion of love or feeling of love from movies, books, and lot of other influences. And there are a lot of again, what do you say, taboos and biases that we have about the concept of love. But I think you have to look it from an expansive. If you really allow yourself to feel love, so it is not particular to a love between a male and female, but the definition or the scope of love is much more beyond. Yeah, so it should be effortless. This is the most important thing that we feel, especially in a thing of marriage, that it has to be effortless. But it doesn't actually. Practical reality is quite different. So love grows in the soil of vulnerability, effort, and imperfection. Yeah. So if we can see many husband and wives, they have very successful married life. But if we look deep down, there are a lot of give and takes, there are a lot of understanding, there are a lot of ups and downs, and there are a lot of events that would have happened where you had to be vulnerable, you had to make an effort, and there was no perfect picture as it would have been felt in the initial period. Those things will shatter, and ultimately you will have to hold yourself responsible to uphold the relationship and carry on. So it is more of a responsibility, I would say. And understanding love is, in a factor, many other perspectives can be added other than just maybe a narrow thing on love between a male and female. Yeah. Happiness, it's the end goal. So many books have been written about it, that it's not a goal, but it's a way of life, and it's not external, it's something which is internal. Happiness is not the goal, it's the byproduct of meaningful living. So either you live meaningfully, or you at least have that constant happiness factor, and manage the things, get managed by you in a better manner. Anxiety, it's a weakness or flaw. So a lot of people now say, I have anxiety issues. So it reflects something is broken, something is wrong with me, something, which I'm not able to cope up. Yeah, partly it's true, but the anxiety shows that I care about something so dearly that that it seems to be making me feel overwhelmed. So instead of being overwhelmed, how can I listen without letting it control me? Is what is the message we should be idly taking it. So anxiety, if I understand, some people have said that it is either you are looking at something you want, which has not happened, and you are, thinking about it because it's yet to happen. So you're looking at future with an expectation, and that expectation is making you worry that with it happen, why is the time so much time taking for it to happen? So that anxiety builds up. To some extent, it is healthy in the sense you take any course correction or any way of looking at it from a different perspective, but in most cases it is not very productive. So closing insight, we are not our thoughts, we are not also our emotions, we are much greater than that. We are the awareness behind them. Emotional agility isn't about suppressing emotion, it's about becoming skillful in working with them. But all given and said and done, I think this book has made us amply understand that you have to have acceptance for whatever you are and wherever you are. And you have to just make a decent effort in understanding the concepts maybe of the book and try to follow as much as possible. But even Susan understands, because she is a psychologist and she has seen many cases. She is also very, very clearly putting practical realities that not every time we might be able to control our emotions. Finally, what is a human without emotions? So our humanness is our emotions, and it's a beautiful part of us. So let us make it grow rather than let it control us, is what I think is the message in this book. So thank you everyone for the patient hearing. Anything, if anybody wants to add, please go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify something. As I understand, we are talking about emotional intelligence, right? Agility and intelligence are the same thing, vis-a-vis this book's meaning, or is it something different that she's talking about?
I would just say that emotional agility is how you are able to it's more like a capability, I would say, to handle the emotion. While emotional intelligence, I don't know specifically the difference, but I would say it is more of an understanding.
Yeah, emotional intelligence also deals with the fact that you are being self-aware of what your emotions are. You're naming them, that okay, this is what I'm facing, and what would be beneficial, what would be the right response, not the beneficial, right response to what,
Right.
basis on what we are facing,
Right.
or what I'm facing. So
Yeah.
as I understood that it is the same thing, but I just wanted to find out,
See,
whether
that's what I don't know the answer to that what is emotional intelligence. But as I look at, this seems to be a capability. Emotional agility is a capability how I actually handle it in life. Emotional intelligence may be an understanding of what emotions are. Just the awareness part of it is what I feel. But let's not go into the if we just let go of the jargons. Holistically, we have to understand that we have to build this capability. You can name it as emotional intelligence, and I can take it as emotional agility. I don't think it makes
right.
much a difference. Yeah. But thank you for bringing it up. Maybe I will just check. Yeah. Anyone else would like to add?
Wanted to ask one thing. Have you watched the movie Inside Out, Maniselvi, by any chance? Or
Uh,
anyone else in the room here?
Actually, I do remember watching it, but I don't have a clear memory. If I'm right, it was about a girl who had to move from her place, convenient place of school and
Yes,
and the
yes, yes.
neighborhood. She had to move somewhere, and she could not express that to the family. And the family thought she was happy about it, and they shifted. So I
Yes,
think the emotion was joy, I suppose, if I'm not wrong. So
yeah.
she always showcased that she was happy. She was joyful. And she never showed the sadness to come up. So always joy will overcome the sadness, and try to
Yeah,
express and not allow
yeah,
the sadness to be expressed, if I remember right. And finally,
yeah.
I think she breaks that and she tries to escape from
She
home.
embraces both. Yeah, she
And she comes
embraces.
back and then she realizes and she opens up and shows the sadness to the family, saying that due to this reason, I'm not comfortable and this is how it is. Right?
And
Yeah.
there is now a second part of it also where she is a teenager,
Okay.
and there are some new emotions like anxiety
Mm.
and things like that get added up, and now she has to deal with them, and she is learning to. So these are new emotions, so she doesn't understand them initially, and the whole story, basically the way the pictorial illustration of emotions and how deeply they have worked upon it, it really connects with me very well. And a real life example is like we just watched it out of fun with my daughter, and I understand that she understands her emotions very well because of the movie. Because now, initially, at least now that it's faded out, but initially I remember she used to express to me this way ki, I think anger is in my driving seat today. So, and even I could communicate with that to her. So it was very beautiful. So I was just thinking, if many of us too are yet to watch it, we can do a watch party together for that, like maybe upcoming Saturday or somewhere, because it is very much in connection with the book, and it's very beautiful movie, especially the way creatively they have put it together and the way they have expressed it. It helps us understand our emotions very well and how they operate, and it's very beautiful. So I would highly recommend that everyone do watch it. But if not, we can do it together also.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
Manisha, if
Yeah,
you are
yeah, we can
free,
do it.
and I feel
Yeah,
you will
yeah,
be
I'm
able to
okay to it.
connect with it very well also
Right,
once we
right,
watch it.
right.
And with this book, especially, it is very much in alignment. We can watch one part first, and then second part maybe upcoming weekend or
Yeah,
whatever, like
yeah,
however it
yeah, yeah.
works. So
Yeah, it's a
whenever
good
money
idea.
is
It's a good
actually
idea.
available, we will watch it at that time
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
It's a very beautiful, especially to understand emotions. I have always connected very well with that, and I feel this book and the way, especially how the way Mani Selvi helps us understand it with deeper insights after the session. I think personally, I am looking forward to that part of it, that part of the session. So I feel that will be an add-on for everyone to connect. Now that we have just read and reading this book, and we also have recordings, I am personally going to go back and rewatch and re-listen to all of these recordings every year, because I feel I was not so attentive at some of the parts during the session throughout all of the book, but I want to revisit, and especially what Mani Selvi had shared and all of that. So I would recommend all of you do that. And let's watch the movie also simultaneously. That will help us watch, even if you have watched it before, like I have watched it like one or two times before, but I think now with the book I would be able to connect and understand it in from a different perspective altogether. So that
Yes,
will help.
yes.
So let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. Yes.
Yeah, we'll
So,
connect and I'll just check the time availability with you, and then we'll put the poll accordingly, and then we'll see when we can do it.
right.
Okay. Yeah.
Anybody else has anything else to share?
Yeah. Thank you, Maniselvi, Mansi. More than the book, no, the discussion you're having here and the insights everyone is sharing, that is making a big impact on me. Thank you for all the shares. And the reframing thing is beautiful, Maniselvi. Sunita, all your shares, and Mansi, you organizing the book, the movie watch would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, yes. So let's do it. Let's go in as deeper as possible, understanding our emotions, right? Because we all need to. We cannot escape them. They are
Right.
not optional. So yeah, and Maniselvi is taking us in so much depth. I'm so grateful, and for all your authenticity, Maniselvi, the way you're presenting it, and I'm totally in awe with the way how you can so deep dive and reflect so deeply upon things. I wish I could one day learn this skill from you, or whatever. I just one day, if I can just get that in me, that would be so great. I just so much look up to you for this. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks for
for
that.
bringing
Actually,
yourself for us and giving us all this opportunity to experience all this with you.
yeah, but to be very frank, if it was any other book, maybe I would have not come out with so much of insights. It's just that I have worked, and learning NLP also has made me look a bit more on that side. Of course, we all are on our personal journeys to become better. So that also has added. More so, I would say my journaling experiences of last year has helped me in a greater understanding or looking from different perspective, I would say. So it is not alone reading or enjoying a particular book, but these things have helped me to come out with these different perspectives and information. Maybe not always I can, bring that for each book, I would say. But this book, yes, it was very fulfilling and good that, we all could share and we all could come out and relate to this book in a different manner, I would say.
And maybe because of this reason, that is this book got selected in the poll also. So I always believe in this divine intervention. So I feel maybe because we actually, me and Manisal, we were more looking forward and thinking about reading these two books, like The Five Types of Wealth and Start With Why. So we were hoping that more people will vote for those, and maybe mostly we'll start with one of those, but somehow this book got selected and we just are here discussing it, and maybe because you were the right person to take us through it. So thank you for everything.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Maniselvi, I want to thank you. Thank you very much. मतलब इमोशंस के बारे में बहुत डिटेल में आपने बताया, और मानसी थैंक यू आपने मतलब ये अरेंज किया सब कुछ, क्योंकि अगर आप ये ग्रुप नहीं बनाती तो इतना डीप में इमोशंस के बारे में नहीं,
एक्चुअली
मतलब
ना आई नीड टू थैंक ईच वन ऑफ यू, बिकॉज अगर आप लोग आते नहीं तो ये ग्रुप चलता नहीं. सो बना के कुछ नहीं होता. वी नीड पीपल टू पार्टिसिपेट एंड बी देयर इन्वॉल्व. सो आई थिंक हर एक का एनर्जी मेक्स अ डिफरेंस. सो आई एम सो ग्रेटफुल. एंड मनीषल, यू आर पुटिंग इन सो मच एफर्ट. तो आई तो
मैंने
हैव नो
मतलब
वर्ड्स.
एक एपिसोड मतलब एक रिकॉर्डिंग 2-3 बार तो सुनी ही होगी, क्योंकि मैं यहाँ पे कहना चाहूंगी कि मेरी इंग्लिश मतलब थोड़ी इतनी जल्दी में समझ नहीं पाती, तो मुझे मतलब 2-3 बार सुनना पड़ा, तो वो मतलब मेरे लिए बहुत बहुत अच्छा रहा, क्योंकि इससे मैं एक एक पॉइंट को ठीक से समझ पाई, और आपने जिस डिटेलिंग से सब कुछ समझाया डीपली हमें, मतलब बुक में से जानने को मिला, ये बुक मतलब मेरे लिए लाइफ चेंजिंग कह सकती हूँ मैं, बहुत बहुत अच्छी रही. थैंक यू.
Thank
थैंक
you,
यू एवरीवन.
Sakina. Thank you for your sincere effort. I could see, आप रेगुलरली पढ़ रहे थे,
अभी
देख
मैं
रहे
पढ़
थे
रही
और
हूँ,
रिलेट भी कर रहे थे,
हाँ,
तो अच्छा
6th
लगा कि
चैप्टर में हाँ पहुंची हूँ अभी तो.
हाँ, तो अच्छा लगा आपने जैसे आपने आपके कमेंट्स पोस्ट किए, तो इट एनकरेजेस मी ऑल्सो and also shows that I'm going in the right direction. So thanks for that, and thanks for bringing your energy to that, so that we keep on moving ahead. So thank you.
कोशिश तो मैं करती हूँ कि मतलब मैं रीडिंग टाइम पे ही ज्वाइन कर पाऊँ, बट ये अभी हो नहीं पाता, लेकिन मैं कोशिश करती रहूंगी कि मैं ज्वाइन कर पाऊँ.
हाँ,
Thank you.
actually all thanks to Saurabh who has made all this
हाँ,
possible.
सही है.
क्योंकि मुझे तो लग रहा था कि नहीं कौन सुनेगा and all that, like but now I know the worth of it actually. So thank you that we did not miss anything that Manish Salvi shared with us this
हाँ,
time at least, and everyone is able to watch it and just visit it in. और वो ऐसे obligation नहीं आ रहा है ना किसी को कि नहीं इस टाइम पे ही आना है, like वो एक प्रेशर से हम लोग अभी मुक्त हो गए. So वो एक अच्छा है. So everyone is doing watching it by their will. So that is more important. So that's great. Thank you everyone. You each
thank
are
Yeah,
so
you,
much.
Mansi, thank you.
Mansi, how are you
Yes.
doing this animated thing?
हाँ,
I
ये
was
बहुत अच्छा
मुझे एक
लगता
बार
है.
सिखाना सबको.
expecting कोई पूछे.
अच्छा लग रहा है. Very
हाँ.
cute and very nice it is, that animation.
I gave you a
अरे actually ना
shared
मैंने
a
अभी
comment as well.
कल ही सीखा है. I
मतलब
just
तो
ended.
Saurabh
हमको भी
also has
सिखा
the
दो.
same thing.
मैं सोच
Yeah,
रही
yeah.
थी कि ये मतलब आप जो बात कर रही थी मूवी का, उसका तो सीन नहीं है, फिर मुझे मतलब एकदम
नहीं,
स्ट्राइक हुआ
अरे
कि अच्छा
actually
ये तो मानसी बोल रही है.
नहीं, I am thanks to Rahul ji who is the coach also in our group also. He's there and I attended one of his session. तब मैंने देखा सब लोग ऐसे ही अवतार में बैठे, तो मुझे समझा नहीं क्या था, तो even I explored after that, thanks to him and all his, like he's so aware and updated with all the new things. तो ना अभी कोई like ये ना हमारा अगर हम मोर में जाएंगे ना तो शायद वहां, मुझे तो अभी वहां पे ही दिख रहा है, बट वी कैन सी दिस अवतार ऑप्शन. जैसे बैकग्राउंड रखते हैं ना हम लोग जाके, वैसे वहां पे अभी नया एडिशन आया है कि यू कैन सी द अवतार एंड इन दैट आप
अच्छा.
जाके आपका अवतार कस्टमाइज कर सकते हो. अभी एग्जैक्टली स्टेप टू स्टेप मैंने भी पता नहीं कैसे
Okay,
किया,
we'll try it out.
तो मे बी सौरभ कैन
Bye.
हेल्प अस बेटर.
I think
That backgrounds, yes, I got it. See, यहाँ पे ना
video.
just go in the more, and in that more ना 3 dots you can see at the bottom ना, तो 3 dots में जाके you can see background and effects. तो वहां पे आप जाओगे ना तो आपको 3 ऑप्शन दिखेंगे, वर्चुअल बैकग्राउंड, वीडियो फिल्टर्स और अवतार. तो ये जो अवतार वाला ऑप्शन है ना, इसमें आप बस ऐड में जाना, और ऐड में जाके एज यू गो इन द ऐड आपको एक एक चीज आने लगेगी, स्किन, फेस, हेयर, सब कुछ आएगा. तो वो जो भी आपको पसंद है वो सिलेक्ट करते जाने का, और फिर बाद में एट द एंड वॉट एवर यू वांट टू स्किप, यू गो दैट एंड देन यू जस्ट क्लिक अप्लाई. तो वो हो जाता है एंड दैट गेट्स एडेड एज एन अवतार एंड इट्स फन. तो हम लोग हमारा खुद का अवतार भी क्रिएट कर सकते हैं, कुछ भी रख सकते हैं, देख सकते हैं अपने मूड के हिसाब से. एंड द बेस्ट पार्ट इज टुडे आई ऑब्जर्व वन मोर थिंग, लाइक अगर हम कैमरा ऑफ रखते हैं तो वो स्टेबल रहता है. दिस वाज माय टुडेज लर्निंग अगेन. और अगर हम कैमरा ऑन रखते हैं ना तो वो जो हम एक्सप्रेशन देते हैं वो भी देता है थोड़ा थोड़ा बीच में. अगर आप मुंडी हिला रहे हो तो वो भी हिलेगा. तो इट वाज फन. सो जस्ट प्ले विथ इट. लेकिन मेरे ख्याल से ये शायद आप जब जूम चालू है तभी कर सकते हो, वो मुझे पता नहीं, तो जस्ट चेक. सो जब सेशन चालू रहेगा यू ट्राई इट आउट in anything. It's fun and
Thank you,
quick
Mansi.
also. Yeah. Saurabh,
Great.
can we do this when we are offline? Like, I don't know about that.
You can just start a meeting with yourself and do it.
अच्छा, we can do that. Okay. अभी ये
और
रूम तो हमारा ओपन टू ऑल ही है ना, कभी भी you can start with this link
हाँ,
also.
एक्चुअली वो भी कर
And
सकते हो, और ऐसे कोई भी न्यू मीटिंग भी क्रिएट करके यू कैन डू इट एक्चुअली.
हाँ, लेकिन but for that people will need to have their own Zoom. Yeah, हाँ,
नहीं
maybe.
नहीं, यू डोंट. 40 मिनट्स का जूम तो सबको मिलता है ना.
अच्छा, हाँ, फ्री वाला वर्जन में भी. Yes, do that. Do create 2-3 avatars of yourself as per your mood or whatever, just one at least, and then explore it. It's fun.
So you go to your background, just background and effects and do that.
Background and effects if you
And
go.
choose avatar.
Yeah, and there is this last option called
Choose
avatar in
avatar.
that.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I pick up my own avatar.
Yeah, and you create also one. When you
You
go
can
on the
create
I'll
one,
ad,
or
do
you
now.
can use one
Now
of
you
these
can do,
animals.
no? All three of you can do. Sunita, Deepa, Sakina, try करो. Whether you can do it.
हाँ,
अभी
मैं
कर लो.
ढूंढ
अभी
ही रही
करो
हूँ.
ना. डाउट है तो पूछो, then we can guide.
Create
हाँ
more from.
चलेगा. If you have
Okay.
time, yeah, we can like.
And even when you switch on your camera, it will look like this. I
हाँ
mean, like
वो
now.
ना जब तक हम हाइड अवतार नहीं करते ना तब तक कैमरा ऑन करने पे भी वो अवतार में ही रहते हैं हम लोग. और वो it will only pick up your movements when you are on
Correct.
camera.
Like it is doing right now for me. My camera is on.
So yeah,
So
see now I'm camera on and I'm moving. See whatever I do, I don't know. अभी तो नहीं कर रहा है वैसे वो pick. See my head will move whatever like I don't know.
correct.
Somehow it just picks. So I was just
Right.
wondering like today in Rahul's session कि यार मेरा तो इतना stable दिख रहा है. How is he moving and all these expressions I can see. Then I just tried with the camera on and it worked. This is so much fun.
It's good. Thank you. Thank you.
Just explore it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
I'll
I
do
will
that.
leave and I'll close the recording. By the way, ये सब भी record हो रहा है. तो नहीं एक्चुअली ये मुझे मिलता नहीं है यार ऑप्शन unless I close the room ना सौरभ. I can't close the recording. Is there any option for that? I never.
Then you can go and right click and say stop or above.
No, no,
YouTube
we are
यहाँ
not
लिखा हुआ है ना.
recording, na. We are just
हाँ we are going on
हाँ
YouTube
streaming
live.
it.
Yeah.
So you
तो
can stop the
YouTube में
streaming, I
राइट क्लिक
think.
करोगे ना तो फिर आपको स्टॉप आएगा. YouTube ऊपर जहाँ लिखा हुआ है वहां पे आप राइट क्लिक करो तो स्टॉप आएगा तो वो आपका ट्रांसमिट कम हो जाएगा.
नहीं ना मुझे YouTube ऑप्शन ही नहीं दिखता है.
आप iPad पे हो
Like
ना?
once
आप iPad पे कर रहे हो ना?
नहीं फोन पे.
हाँ, फोन पे ना. फोन पे आई थिंक वो कहीं और होगा ऑप्शन. बट
हाँ
वेब
वो
पे
थोड़ा
तो आई
फिगर आउट
मीन
करना पड़ेगा.
डेस्कटॉप में तो ऊपर यूट्यूब रहता है
हाँ
राइट में.
ऊपर दिख रहा है.
उधर यू कैन
Oh.
स्टॉप.
Maybe I am going to like थोड़े दिन में ना I will be logging in from
सुनीता
laptop
भी
only.
आई है.
So Sunita managed it. Sunita could do it. किसी और को भी हुआ क्या possible?
नहीं हो रहा, मतलब मुझे तो ऑप्शन ही नहीं मिल रहा बैकग्राउंड वाला.
वो
नीचे जाओ
किसी
ना
को नहीं.
आप वीडियो में राइट
हाँ
क्लिक
जैसा.
करके शो अवतार आएगा.
Okay, guys. So I'll have to leave now. So thank you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
everyone.
Okay.
Even
Bye
I'll
bye.
take the
Bye.
summary notes and I'll leave. Yeah. Thank you.
थैंक यू.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you
Bye bye.
everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
मानसी कितनी मस्त लगे.
Thank you. आप भी लगोगे. आप ट्राई करो ना. मैं दिखाऊं क्या अभी? Meanwhile जैसे मैं you can't see. आप मोर आपको मिला साकिना? Are you there? Okay, I think she left.